question, just asking for Crook's big picture plan here. And again, so I'll bring that all together. So I've told you just now, we talked about what Mulligan and Hayes, that they've got orders to go forward. But we also remember, we have Avril, who probably about 3 hours before this started moving off to the east of here. You had to get underway, get out of break camp, get underway, move cautiously, and he's on the Front Royal Road, probably about 2.5, 3 miles east of where we're standing right now. And again, his role in the plan is to go around, and Crook's expecting him then to march northward from Newtown, Stevens City, behind this Confederate force that is out in his front. Now, he also has Thoburn's division over on Sandy Ridge to the west. And Thoburn's initial attack is going to be to send one brigade across the top of the ridge. Another brigade is supposed to come over up on Mulligan's right flank. And basically what Crook is envisioning happening is, Hayes, Mulligan, and Ely are going to kind of front up against this Confederate force here. Thoburn's going to swing in from the west on the Confederate left flank over there. And as Mulligan's pushing in here, Hayes will swing around slowly and come in and crush Gordon's right flank over by the Valley Pike. There. Those are the orders that the men have. That's very clear. With especially Thoburn's and Hayes's, we have reports with how they were supposed to advance there. So so what does that tell you? Again, we know you have a great view shed from up here, and Crook was here. It shows you how well Early's keeping his troops concealed. There, so that they're out of sight. Now, as these things start to unveil, Jubal Early, again, Gordon's deploying between 10, and his men are in position by about 11. We talked about the impact of them and the sharpshooter corps there. There's a lot of rock formations out here, and we don't have any source material, but one would think that as the Confederates do close in here, that it's likely some men probably were taking cover behind some of the rock. We do know that some Virginia sharpshooters are going to sweep across this ground and take position on an extension of the stone wall along the lane out here, and they're going to fire down the lane into the flank in the later stages of the battle. Others will be lying in the bed of Hog Run. Again, it's not that perfect trench like you would think it would be today. It's not nowhere near as deep as that. So about 1 o'clock, an old figure that some of you may have heard of from an 1862 Valley campaign, Major Jed Hotchkiss, Stonewall Jackson's topographical engineer. The man, Jackson said, they gave him the job, make me a map of the valley. Well, he did make him maps of the valley, but you know who was the biggest beneficiary of all those maps he made during the 1862 Valley campaign? Dick Ewell and Jubal Early, when they were out here in 63 and 64. Because while Jackson had to wait for the maps to be made, Hotchkiss had a library of maps. And what he's doing in 64, you'll read his journal, made a copy of Winchester area map for general roads, things like that, various, so that when generals got assignments, and they showed you all the details, the churches, the family names on the homes and things. So, but Hotchkiss knows this area. He's been here in 62. He's led troops navigating the brigade commanders in position in 63. In 64, he's going to be given orders about 1 o'clock from down in Bardensville, down where Opecking Creek crosses there. It's off the, if you look at the first map, we have Bardensville on there. And he's going to be given orders to move forward and take Ramseur's division out to the middle road. You point at the middle road that runs just west of the battlefield property, but before you get to Sandy Ridge. So Hotchkiss, he knows that there's a stone-lined lane going that basically will lead you from the Bardensville area over to the middle road. He's going to lead Ramseur into position there. Now, Jubal Early's plan is, he's doing a repeat of his successful plan in his engagement of 1863 on June 13th during the Second Battle of Winchester. Then he sends a brigade up over to that high ground to flank Union troops from their position on Pritchard Hill. This time he's sending Ramseur's division. He'll deploy one of his brigades. You'll see Lewis's North Carolinians. This is map 1. This one's the first battle map. Then he's going to have Johnston's North Carolinians just on this side of the middle road. And then right out over there in that area, directly where I'm pointing now, is going to be where the brigade of Colonel William Hoffman, who was a severely nearsighted colonel in command of a brigade of Virginians here. And it's actually not here at Kernstown, but there's some rather humorous stories about this guy and his poor vision and how it's impacted him at times there. So Early's plan is he's going to pivot down from Sandy Ridge and hit the Union right. Now, over on the other side of the pike, we have John C. Breckinridge. Breckinridge, he'd been a good, solid division commander from the Army of Tennessee under Braxton Bragg in 62 and 63, until he couldn't deal with Bragg's personality anymore. And anyway, at the Battle of Stones River on January 2nd, his division charged, and basically due to faulty intelligence, they ended up charging into the teeth of a strong Union artillery position, took hundreds of unnecessary casualties. Ever since then, Breckinridge always made it a point not to rely on the intelligence from others, but to go out and do his own. So he scouted around out on the eastern side of the battlefield. First he sees that hill. I pointed out to you the hill that I said would play a key role in the battle where I-81 is at. And he's going to see there's a ravine that leads behind it so that he can march his men to that hill unseen. He reports this back to Jubal Early. And again, this is Jubal Early, who according to some people never took ideas from other people, explains the plan to him and the opportunity, and Early instantly approves it, and Breckinridge starts on that flank movement over there. So we see the Confederates now, what you're almost going to have is a double envelopment of the line, the Confederates there. Any questions now on either plans, what both sides are trying to do?
Just some blocking and tackling. A sharpshooter, like what does that mean? Does that mean that they could hit somebody from?
There's a good sign right here. But yeah, but so first of all, there's a common misperception that these sharpshooters, they had these fancy Whitworth rifles with scopes. And there's a great book probably 10 years ago by a guy named Fred Ray that talked about them. A lot of these guys actually used some shorter rifles so that they could, the most important thing was these were all the guys who probably back home were the best hunters in their town, in county. They could shoot accurately, and that was the main qualification for them. And like I said, they belonged in regular regiments, but at the beginning of battles, they'd call out the sharpshooters, and all the designated sharpshooters would come together to form a companies and a battalion that would then screen the front of the army.
So I think, yeah, like super pickets.
Like from here to that little barn there, or from here to like the
Well,
Pritchard
here,
house,
give
like
you an
that?
example. So the industrial building straight there beyond those trees.
Yep.
That's where they're firing from when Mulligan's out here. It's easy pickings for them.
Okay.
You know, you could
800 to 1,000 yards all day long.
They all have rifled muskets by now.
Okay.
Hey Scott, is the fence here at this time, or is there?
No, this fence right here.
Yeah.
No, that's just an
Oh,
agricultural.
And is this all Pritchard Farm?
This is all Pritchard Farm. They're all the way down to the road, which the road you can't see, but it's just beyond that row of pines in front of that industrial building there. This area also, just for those of you who haven't been here before, Stonewall Jackson in 1862, he's going to launch an attack against Union artillery on Pritchard's Hill to basically follow up the draw towards there before he diverts off toward Sandy Ridge. Yeah. One of the things for the new folks here, you know, this, God, I guess it was around 2000, you know, it wasn't certain. At one point there was a deal in place to save all this land, and you know, the trust of the landowner had worked it out, and then a family member sued, and for a while it looked like this thing might fall through. In the end, they broke off a chunk of about 40 acres and got a good price from the church that built up there, and they got the same amount of money from the preservationists for a smaller plot of land than what was supposed to be for the whole thing, and it came through. And it's all, what's important to note here is that the volunteers, people like Chuck, and Steve, and Larry, and others, Dan, you know, that have made this happen. And it's incredible because it's not the same people. It's different people come along, and you know, and have fallen in love with this beautiful plot of land, and dedicate themselves to preserving this. Because it's even if you're not here for history, you know, this for a day like today, this is just a nice place to be and walk around in nature.
If you look at those condos, this plot of land we're standing on, that's the zoning criteria that the county put on where we're standing. Multi-family units. And they ended up paying full, even though there were some perking issues, so they had some difficulty in building here. They still paid full retail price as if it was going to be built into, so desperate at saving it. $4 million in 1999.
That got paid off relatively
Very
quickly.
quickly.
You know, I just know I do a lot with Shenandoah Valley, and there's stuff that was done, and you know, there's still, you know, they're leveraging that stuff. You know, like Shenandoah Valley Foundation, you know, they've got stuff up and down here, and you know, do their pitches there. So it's tough to do. There's a lot more land to save, but not always the political will of localities to be willing to cooperate with that if, you know, the money's there.
We got support from both the county and the city because we're half and half. So they did want to save this.
Yeah.
And that was critical. Those two planners saw that this really probably shouldn't be residential. So we owe a lot to those two guys.
And they gave significant amounts of money that you don't usually see.
No,
Usually you're happy that they don't get in the way of a preservation, you know, and grease the path for the development. And that they both supported a substantial appropriations for the preservation of this. And you know, there's lots of, it's open every weekend, right? Year round.
We're open every day now for walkers, and it's Friday through Sundays in season, April through October. And we do special tours. So if you got a family member, you want to walk the trace of that member. No, we're not going to the wilderness. But if you're coming out here, we'll take you to where we think they're camped, and we use like his book and Gary Eckelbarger's book, and we give special tours, and we get some really good relationships from the family, eventually even some money. So we really enjoy those special tours. So keep that in mind.
Okay, well, what we're going to do now is we're going to head back to the wall. And again, let me just emphasize, we got Crook's plan early switch now. He's given Breckinridge the go-ahead, and that's going to be our main point of contact over there.
Can you point out where the tavern would have been?
Oh, the tavern? Straight over that way into town. It's still Beamer's Tavern.
Beyond the housing
There's
development.
a building there right at the center of Kernstown that is original. It doesn't look it. It looks new. It's brick.
Yeah, it's
But
like
it
a
goes back to
yellowish, brownish brick, light brown brick building. Is it
It's-
a bank now? or
No,
what
it's
is
an
it?
investment, I think, insurance company.
It's been.
What's that?
It's Ameriprise.
Ameriprise.
What is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Financial planning.
Okay. It's been a number of different businesses.
Yeah,
over
it has
the-
been modernized nicely, but it is one of the original, if not the only. We know of any other buildings in Kernstown? We're here?
Yeah, there's a white building.
So like two.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah, it's like the farm. There was there's a used car dealership. First one down on your right as you're going south on Route 11 after you pull out of the church. that used car dealership.
Is it original?
No, that's
used wagon shop.
That's a
Used horse dealership.
artillery position.
Oh, the artillery position, yeah.
Yeah, the Confederates, when this attack rolls forward, they're going to.
The day of the battle, would the fields have looked like this? Or would they have been agricultural? Or
They were all agriculture. Wheat,
like
wheat,
cornfield?
rye, corn. We found the 1819 crop that they were suing each other. And we found what they were actually producing, how many bushels. As we said, this was very much clear.
Yeah.
Because this was all agriculture.
I'm guessing this was in pasture or something, because usually when soldiers are writing about going through a field, they'll talk about a wheat field.
Right.
They'll talk about a cornfield.
Yep.
They'll talk about an orchard or things. And I'll see some orchard references over in that direction. But again, the biggest thing, I don't see people talk about struggling to get across the creek, and I've never seen, you know, just talk about fences and stone walls and things, but no crops or anything. So
I know it's a whole different story, but I'm just curious. This is the Second Battle of Kernstown?
the second,
Did the first one happen here also?
it did. I can give you the big picture summary. So it's March 23rd of 1862. Stonewall Jackson, he was a hero at First Manassas, but he didn't get the press of a lot of people who were more flamboyant, and just like today, you know, some people are tied in with the media, and he wasn't. So the officers respected him, but anyway, and he comes out, he's going to struggle in the valley prior to this. He's going to have a failed campaign out to Romney and failed expeditions trying to cut the C&O Canal and things he's on. And he's going to move down here, and he thinks that some Union troops leave Winchester, and but there's still a large force at Winchester, and so he comes up and attacks on the 23rd. One of his initial attacks is going to be coming across these fields off to my right over there, and they're going to be going for that artillery on the same hill we were standing on. And that comes under heavy fire, and they're going to divert off that way. Then Jackson's going to basically switch the whole army. He's going to put artillery on Sandy Ridge, and he takes his whole infantry over here. And then the Union troops, they're going to start attacking Sandy Ridge, and after a long fight, the Confederates withdraw, and Jackson's only loss of the war.
We toured the first Kernstown too.
One thing I'd like to add, if you've ever been to Sandy Hill, it's actually a little higher than Pritchardville. So if you got artillery there, you can fire down onto Pritchard's Hill. And that's also another preservation victory.
What is it, 8? Is it 8? Yeah, they just saved another 4 properties up there. If you're here all right, I'm going to do this. Thank you for that segue. Friday, the other author tour, authors coming out. These two guys, Gary.
That is
Eichelbarger.
Friday, right?
It is
Yes,
Friday at noon. We're going to have a little SVP, Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation will be there, because we cut this trail across their property. But between them and the American Battlefield Trust, all the available property between here in Rose Hill Park that's not already residential has been saved. That's just the last year.
Didn't they say that in both of these battles, the guy who lost, Jackson and then Crook, thought that they outnumbered the other guy, and of course they didn't, it turns out.
Yeah, what had happened with Jackson is Banks had 2 divisions here, his own and Shields. Banks leaves. Shields is down here skirmishing some with Ashby and Jackson's vanguard the day before. But then he goes and he camps north of Winchester, and Ashby tells him, you know, they've left.
Okay.
And so he's only got 3,500 men, and he's probably got like 8,000 available for combat under Shields.
They were north of, even the citizens did not see the bulk of Shields' division. So he was getting it from 2 different sources. But you were saying that Crook had an inkling that Early could still be here.
He did. It's his warning message, and I can't remember if it's the Hunter or the War Department right now. But on the 22nd, and I'm pretty sure it's to Halleck or Stanton, somebody like that, where he's telling them, he definitely says, "I'm not strong enough meet early out here in the valley if his whole force is here. He says that.
Unlike Jackson, was pretty convinced he was just going against a small guy. Problem was he saw 10 to 12 to 16 cannons. You're not going to have that many cannons in a rear guard. But the problem was it's early in the war. He's not this expert that he turns out to be yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
but
all right, well, let's head.
Jackson also said.
Let's head over.